You are listening to Tech Innovator, the podcast dedicated for cutting-edge technologies.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Tech Innovator, brought to you by the IEEE Techno Meetup Sri Lanka. Tech Innovator is our podcast series where we discuss various cutting-edge technologies and demystify their applications and advancements with experts in the field. I'm Sharuni, and today with me I have Dinuka Piyadigama, who is a blockchain developer at Niftron and a creative full-stack developer with experience in technologies such as data science and cloud computing. He's also a serial entrepreneur who has great interest in market analysis. He has also been a member of the IET Young Professionals Sri Lanka section and IEEE student branch of IIT. Hi Dinuka, we are delighted to have you here with us today.
Hi Sharuni, thanks for having me here. It's a real honor to be on your program and discuss about a trending topic these days, trending technology. So I think we can get started and hopefully make the audience even more interested in the technology.
Yes, let's hope we can give them our best. So in today's episode, we'll be talking about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Blockchain is the latest trend in the market, and it's quite evident that investors are cashing in a lot of money because the future of this ingenious technology is pretty bright and, of course, rewarding. At the same time, industry experts are coming up with different sorts of blockchain-based products almost every other day. So I think there still could be many who might be new to this area of blockchain. Could you explain to us in simple terms what this technology is and how it works?
So a blockchain is actually, it can be a decentralized network and a system that records information in a way that is different or impossible to change or cheat the details. And it's validated by the users that are connected to the network. So for an example, if you take you and me and we have two copies of a contract, how do we decide which contract is correct? We usually have to go to a lawyer or a bank or a third party to validate which contract is correct. So what happens in a blockchain is we trust the code, trust the blockchain to tell, or the rest of the users to tell us which one is correct. So I think that's the main highlight in what blockchain is and how it works.
Okay, I think that was one basic example that is very clear to understand what is the concept behind blockchain. So Dinuka, how did you first come across blockchain?
So initially, even before I started my undergraduate degree, I heard about this from a family friend. He told me that there is an up and coming trend, and he wanted me to just get an idea of how it's done and what's happening. So when I first thought about blockchain, I used to think that it's some connected chain of blocks and it's some sort of data, something related to data, but I didn't know what was happening there. And then I got another general idea from a similar session done by Mozilla Club at IIT, which was done by Mr. Sharmilan Somasundaram, who has taught me a lot of things in blockchain. He was a blockchain architect at 99X and now he's the CEO of Niftron. So then I joined the blockchain research group at IIT and we did several projects with 99X there. So that's where I actually learned a lot about the technology side. So since then, I've been working on a couple of projects at Niftron where I've gained a lot of development related experience related to blockchain applications.
Okay, I think that is quite interesting how you have incrementally learned more about blockchain over the years. And not to mention, blockchain was the number one hard skill to pick up according to LinkedIn in 2020. So why do you think there's so much hype around blockchain technology at the moment?
So right now, I think it's been around for a while and people have had enough time to see how foolproof the technology is and what advantages they can gain out of it by using the technology. And then currently, a lot of influencers and influential people speak about blockchain related projects or applications or even cryptocurrencies that are related to blockchain in a very open way on social media. Like most of the time, if you go on social media, it's very likely that you will see at least one post related to blockchain on a day. And there have been many interesting applications also that have been built around blockchains apart from blockchains itself. And those seem to be addressing a lot of concerns that people have with regular applications.
Okay, so let's move on to a bit of the evolution of blockchain. Could you give us an idea of how blockchain has evolved? Where did it start and what is the future of this technology?
Right. So the start was, of course, Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the application that really introduced what blockchain was to the world, even though the concept was there for a while since the 1990s. So Bitcoin was introduced with the economic recession in 2009, and the purpose was to be an electronic peer-to-peer cash system free of the central bank and of course governments, that will also attract investors as a store of value. So that was the main reason why Bitcoin was invented. And then now we have a lot of blockchain based applications, especially on networks like Ethereum, that has the capability of enhancing programs by giving the decentralized data storage system to many applications. And if we talk about the future, since there are many decentralized applications that are also called DApp that are being currently invented, even if you take Silicon Valley or Singapore incubators, most of the projects that are finding lots of investment these days, if you just go on their websites, you'll see that most of the projects are blockchain-based projects. And even if you take fintech projects, which are financial technology projects, they will most likely have a blockchain integration in there. So with that, and with several tech giants investing a lot of resources to bring the metaverse to life. So the metaverse is an extended reality universe basically that is created online. So even with that, it's expected that blockchain-based applications or even digital items based on blockchain, such as NFTs that are really popular these days, it's expected that they will play a major role in how we interact with each other over the internet and even in real life. So personally, I am very interested to see how XR and blockchain will redefine how the world works in the near future. And since the metaverse is actually already here, it's already launched in the US and Canada, the Facebook's metaverse. So with that, and with all the blockchain projects that are booming, we are living in very interesting times, and it's a really good time to learn about these technologies. Like Sheruni mentioned, even LinkedIn had blockchain as the number one hard skill in 2020.
Yes, definitely. I do agree with all the details that you just mentioned. And something significant about blockchain is that it's considered to be a trusted approach. What do you think are the key principles in blockchain that are helpful in eliminating security threats?
So the main thing that you understand when you look into blockchain is that the data that is entered can't be deleted or modified. So if you think about a database that can't be deleted or modified, and even if someone does make changes, let's say change a record, you will be able to see the old records as well. So that is the primary objective of using a blockchain in many applications, especially if you take supply chain projects. All these data, the sources of data, and whoever changes it, all these things will be recorded with their public keys. But these can be recorded only using a valid private key that each user gets. So let's say you want to validate a transaction, you can, if there's another person called X and he wants to enter his transaction, you can see that a person has entered a transaction with a public key. It's a random key in the sense a random hexadecimal or hash number. But you can validate that transaction that this has happened, but you can't actually do the transaction on behalf of someone else. Then there's also privacy. So because you can't map this person to who it actually is, like you can do that, but it's very difficult if the person is secure about what he reveals to the public. That if, let's say, if a person says that this is my public key, then of course you can't do anything about it. You know that that's his public key. If not, you can be completely anonymous and you can do whatever you want without anyone knowing that you are doing it. But then this doesn't mean that you trust anonymous people. You trust the code in a transaction. You don't trust anonymous people. You trust the code on the blockchain to do the right thing. For example, an Ethereum smart contract, which is a program that runs on the blockchain, like that will be the controlling factor. It won't be the people who are interacting with each other. It will be the blockchain itself, the program there, that will be controlling that, it will be validating that the transaction, and it will make sure that the transaction happens properly.
Okay, it's true that blockchain actually contributes a lot to for the security, and especially in for finance professionals, because I think I read recently that blockchain technology is going to experience a boost in popularity among finance professionals, with 66% of banks expecting to have blockchain solutions in production within the next 3 or 4 years. So other than security, there are so many other benefits. What do you think are the other main benefits of blockchain?
So apart from security, you can eliminate the third person. That's one of the key factors that's been pointed out with related to blockchain-based applications, is that you can remove the intermediate person, such as a bank or someone who's validating that the transaction, or any sort of transaction, it can be currency, legal documents, goods, anything, to happen properly. Like, we usually have the third person to make sure that it happens properly. So we can eliminate that person, and that will of course have a cost saving there, and it'll make sure that no other outsider can influence that person to be biased towards one party. Then the records if you take a public blockchain, the records can be verified publicly. Anyone who has the transaction number, or who knows what the transaction is, can validate that this transaction has happened and what has been transferred over, by whom, to which person, which public key.
Okay, so like everything else, blockchain has probably got its own drawbacks, right? So what do you think are some of those challenges or drawbacks that developers still face with blockchain?
Yeah, so that's been talked about a lot right now. Even on social media, if you see, a lot of people are very concerned about especially mining. So mining is the process of validating transactions that happen on the blockchain. So for this, it's said that it takes a lot of, the power consumption is very high, and so mining is one of the main drawbacks that a lot of people on social media are highlighting right now. And mining is of course a process of validating transactions and details on the blockchain, and for that, the main environmental impact comes because of the power consumption and the heat that's been generated by using very high computational power. And for that, of course, developers have been coming up with various solutions. And if you take Ethereum, which is one of the biggest blockchains right now, they have been moving into proof of stake instead of proof of work, which enables only people who have Ethereum to stake an amount and then involve in validating the transactions without having everyone and anyone to validate. So that is just one way that developers have been approaching the challenge, but I think it still needs a lot of work getting rid of that heat generation and environmental impact. So if you take the difficulties that users face, that also have to be addressed by developers. So transaction fees can be high at times, and there are many blockchain built around like core blockchains that are catered towards this, but then it's not exactly user friendly. Like, if you take a normal person, and even if you take a developer, they won't know everything that's happening and every single detail of how to get it to work. So then that is there. So that's more of a user experience sort of side, and then managing that each user's private key is also a bit of a concern right now. So those are some of the things that developers still have to address. And of course, most likely someone will come up with something that will address these issues in the future.
Yeah, hopefully they will. And Dinuka, so having experience as a blockchain developer, you might probably have come across different applications of blockchain. Could you tell us some popular languages or blockchain networks that are used to develop blockchain? And if you can recall some distinctive algorithms or cryptographic algorithms that you have come across while developing blockchain.
So when it comes to blockchain development, there can be blockchain developers and blockchain-based application developers that are also known as decentralized app developers. So just because you want to build a blockchain-based application, you don't necessarily need to learn any languages or cryptographic algorithms to build a blockchain itself. But then to answer your question, if you want to build a blockchain, most likely, like if you take Ethereum, it's built on Golang. Like the main language that they use is Golang, and the cryptographic algorithm that Ethereum uses is something called KeyCack 256, and Bitcoin uses SHA-256, which is a very popular cryptographic hashing function. And then when it comes to decentralized application development, you can build DApps on blockchains such as Ethereum, Stellar, Cardano, and there are many more blockchains. And if you take Ethereum, you can use Solidity to write smart contracts, that is programs that run on, or code that runs on the blockchain. And to interact with this code that runs on the blockchain, you can use JavaScript, Go, Scala, or Java. Those are some of the very popular languages that are used to integrate blockchain into applications. And if you do intend to develop a decentralized application, you usually can find all the functions of how to integrate whatever functionality you want of the blockchain on their documentation. So in about 4 or 5 languages, most of the documentations, they give how to implement, and they even give the code. So you just need to understand the concept of how things work.
Thank you. I think that was some valuable information for beginners to start if they want to build blockchain. Now, I think previously you mentioned that blockchain mining is an important process which takes place within blockchain. Could you explain what blockchain mining is?
So blockchain mining is the adding and validation of transaction data to the blockchain. So this is done by computers that are connected to the blockchain over the internet. So that can be any person who's using a computer connected over the internet to the blockchain. And these computers use specified software for the computer to be capable of running as a blockchain node. So a blockchain node is what mines data for the blockchain. And for an example, if you take Bitcoin, the main software application that is used for this is Bitcoin Core. Similarly, other blockchains also have their own software that you can download onto your machine and run, so that you can also act as a miner and support the blockchain.
Okay. Blockchain is often referred to as the distributed ledger or distributed ledger technology. It's also known to be an incorruptible ledger. How is this blockchain ledger different from a traditional one?
So in a traditional ledger, what happens is that a third party is there to control what happens to your data. So even if it's your data, let's take a bank for an example. So the bank will control what happens to your money, and even though you are the owner of your money, you necessarily don't have complete control over what you can do or what happens to your money. An example, right now, if you take in Sri Lanka, you can't really exchange the amount of LKR Sri Lankan rupees to US dollars that you want. You have to do what the bank tells you that you can do. So blockchain ledgers remove this third person and gives you full control of what you want, while validating that what you do is acceptable. Since it's distributed, the data loss is also very unlikely to happen. So I think that's the main point that is addressed by the incorruptible ledger that's been available with blockchain technology.
All right. Another interesting question that has been wandering in my mind is, do you think blockchain can help failing economies?
Yeah, so it can help the citizen of a failing economy. I don't think that it will be helpful for the government or the country's economy as a whole, because if people just start using crypto over fiat, in the sense Sri Lankan rupees, then the government will lose more of the money they have. And right now, even if you take in Sri Lanka, cryptocurrencies aren't really allowed to be purchased. No, there's no restriction to use it. You can't purchase mainly because dollars go out of the country, because when you want to buy crypto, you you're most likely buying from outside. And because of that, central bank has also imposed restrictions for that. So it won't necessarily help failing economies, but then the applications that are built on blockchain can help make things more transparent to the society. So that will definitely have a positive impact, because right now the main problem is that we don't know what's happening in the country. Like a normal person doesn't exactly know what's happening to the whole economy unless they have someone on the inside. So I think that's how failing economies can be benefited from blockchain.
Yes, I do agree with you. And there are several fields where blockchain is applied. Do you think IoT will have possible advancements with the application of blockchain?
Well, I know that the use of IoT with blockchain has helped industries such as the agricultural industry, and of course supply chain projects that are also related to this. Then Traceify, which was done by 99x, is one of the most successful ones that have come out of Sri Lanka. Of course, if you take IoT benefiting from blockchain, maybe we'll be able to see those in the future as well.
Yeah, true. So I think we covered quite a lot on blockchain and its applications. So let's move on to cryptocurrency. We know that blockchain is a technology that enables the existence of cryptocurrency. And as of 2021, there are more than 10,000 active cryptocurrencies based on blockchain. And at the moment, Bitcoin is the widely known cryptocurrency for which blockchain technology was originally invented. Could you tell us what's actually happening behind Bitcoin, since most people tend to conflate blockchain and Bitcoin?
Yeah, so Bitcoin is, like I said, it's an application of blockchain, and blockchain is the technology. So Bitcoin uses blockchain to transparently record a ledger of payments. But if you take blockchain can be used to immutably record any number of data points. So it doesn't necessarily have to be only transactions data. And Bitcoin transfers currency between all users, while blockchain can be used to transfer all sort of things. Like I mentioned, the data points can be transferred, including information or property ownership rights. So that's when non-fungible tokens, semi-fungible tokens, and everything comes in. So if you take blockchain as the top of the tree, Bitcoin and all these other cryptocurrencies, then there's NFTs, semi-fungible tokens, and all that comes under the blockchain. And even smart contracts that's on Ethereum, all those come under blockchain, and blockchain is the technology.
Okay. So talking about cryptocurrency, what exactly determines the value of cryptocurrency?
Yeah, so if you take cryptocurrency, like if you take the blockchain networks that are used to create cryptocurrencies, let's say Bitcoin or something like that, with time, the number of coins that are produced is reduced, and there's a limit to the number of coins. So when there's scarcity, the value keeps increasing. And then, of course, there's the value of what it means to people, like how much someone is willing to pay to buy what you have, buy whatever cryptocurrency you have. And then, of course, there's the adoption of the usage of cryptocurrencies and the value of connected applications in the sense that even right now, there are projects that are connected with specific coins that are used as initial coin offerings to generate cash flows, and like related applications to specific projects are benefiting from cryptocurrencies. So if the project does well, the cryptocurrency's value also increases.
Okay. So Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are now actually being used to purchase products. Even though I'm not using it, I know several people are. What are some of the main advantages of paying with crypto?
Yeah. So you can make payments across the world to anyone without any government or bank restrictions. I think that's the main point there. And of course, it's all digital and it's a way of moving forward of payments. So I think that's why people like to use cryptocurrency transactions.
Okay. So other than paying or selling with crypto, there are people who actually invest on crypto. Why have cryptocurrencies become an investor's favorite?
Yeah, so of course, across the internet, you may see people who have made fortunes by investing in cryptocurrencies when they were at their very beginning. So initially they may start at maybe $0.001 or something, and now they are something around $800 or $3,000. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile. That's a very known fact. And it's more likely to increase in price than decrease if you invest in the right time, at the right time, of course. And the reason for it to increase is because there's a finite amount and the demand keeps increasing. So in most countries, it's very easy to invest in crypto rather than investing in stocks. And because it's likely to increase, I think that's why investors have moved into investing in cryptocurrencies. And of course, because they expect these prices to go up even higher in the future.
Yes, I do agree. And it's actually interesting how cryptocurrency works and how it can be rewarding for anybody who wants to invest in it. And definitely, the future looks bright for blockchain. And we know that developers are striving to find solutions for a decentralized blockchain that are both scalable and secure. What do you think is next for blockchain? What do you think are the promising applications of this technology in the future?
Right. So Ethereum 2.0 is one of the most anticipated releases that many crypto enthusiasts are looking forward to. And that is expected to address some of the major issues, especially on scalability, that have been worrying people who use these blockchains for a long time. And like I mentioned before, we've known the metaverse to be something of the future or something from the movies, but it's actually here. It's not even the future, it's actually here. And in this virtual world, we will need to be able to make low friction transactions using digital assets rather than tangible cash. So that's when NFTs that are already pretty popular is expected to play a big role together with cryptocurrencies. Then any major investment banks, like you mentioned additionally, that there are a lot of banks that are moving into this crypto and blockchain sector, that they are trying to integrate many of their applications, they're trying to integrate blockchain into them. So huge financial investment firms such as JP Morgan and even financial services such as Visa, MasterCard, they have been showing a lot of interest in blockchain integrations. And if you just read online, you'll see that they're actually working on these and they're hiring a lot of people to work on these projects. Then there's Sri Lanka, there's also an ongoing project at Nifron called Exit. You can check that out as well. So that is from Sri Lanka, but it's expected to be rolled out worldwide. And there are some people behind that who are really pushing it out to the world. And that is expected to be the first decentralized internet. So there are interesting projects like that coming up in Sri Lanka as well. Then, of course, these days, especially with NFTs being increasingly popular in the recent past, there are a lot of blockchain marketplaces and exchanges that are coming up. But all these, like the main issue right now for normal people to step in is that the processes aren't exactly smooth enough for some people, especially for less techie people, because there is a tendency that they would get scammed online. So that's an area that developers would be, of course, concerned about and would be trying to address in the future. So I think security-wise, new, more efficient algorithms may come up, and there may be more applications, or let's say something like two-factor authentication, to make sure that the normal person is secured from intruders or scammers online. So I think that's another area where the future may head towards, to increase the security, because that's a core feature of blockchain. And of course, like I mentioned right now, the metaverse is the hot topic these days and developers. So I think that's something, like, let's say if you take the next 5 years, I think that's where we'll see most of the development.
Okay, so I think those were some valuable information on blockchain, whether you are in touch with this topic or whether you're a total beginner. I think these were some new information that is probably going to benefit our listeners. So my last question for you will be, how can a beginner start to learn about blockchain? Where should they start?
Well, for starters, just like all of you here have joined this session, you come here to listen to a person who has experience in working with this technology. So you can watch YouTube videos, read blogs online to see how blockchain is integrated to enhance inventions made just because of blockchain. You can just look into how those work, and then you can understand how they use blockchain to enhance the existing functionality. So after that, you can look into how blockchain technologically work. And for that, I would recommend Mastering Bitcoin. That's a book that was recommended to me by one of the blockchain architects. And it's pretty difficult to read because it has all the algorithms and everything. You may want to find someone who can join you or a study buddy to read that book, because it's pretty long. But then you can just go through it and at least see what's being done. So that will help you understand exactly what's happening inside the blockchain. So that's a really good point for a beginner to start off from. But before that, I would recommend to just see how the applications are being built and what's happening with the integration of blockchain, what's been made possible right now.
Of course. And yes, I'm certain our listeners have gained a lot of information that would benefit them later on the topic we have discussed today. Thank you very much, Dinuka, for accepting our invitation and joining us for today's episode.
Thank you, Sharoni, for having me. It's been an absolute honor to be here. Because IEEE Techno Meetup was one of the very first as a developer or as an undergraduate. And even there, I didn't understand most of the words, but that was the starting point that I took the terms into my head and started looking into things. So I think the audience here also would be able to benefit just like that. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So thanks again. And with that being said, it brings us to the end of our episode. If you enjoy our show, please rate and review us. We have several more episodes lined up for you. So be updated by joining us on our podcast platforms on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, Radio Public, Breaker, and of course, YouTube. Thank you for listening. See you at our next episode.